There we are. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another Blether with. We are slightly different tonight in that we are coming live from the tasting room at the Whisky Shop in Inverurie, and our guest is already here. So we've got Thomas Cuthbert from Morrison Distillers with us today. And we'll be introducing Kat just a little bit later on. She's going to join us just in a second or two. Good evening to everyone coming on from Facebook and YouTube. The YouTube guys are fastest fingers. First, we've got Dave and Pete Head. Good evening, guys. Dave, another alcohol-free night. What's happening to you, mate? Come on, you gotta buck up. Buck up responsibly, of course. So yeah, we're in the tasting room. So hopefully that means there's going to be less drama with internet tonight. We'll see what Kat's internet's like when she joins us. But as you can see, we've got a wall of whiskey behind us rather than my paltry window shelf tonight. Guys, let us know what's in your glasses, what you're drinking tonight, how you're joining us, and where you're joining us from as well. Please do keep in touch. Ryan, good evening. Nice to have you on again. Great to see you. And get those questions firing through. We've got a lot to talk about, as our regular followers will no doubt know. Where and what we're going to talk about, we've no idea yet. We will find out as we go. So please feel free to ask any questions to Thomas, to myself, or to Kat when she comes in. And yeah, so I guess it's a little bit role reversal. I'll just say to Thomas, and normally we introduce the guest, but we'll introduce Kat when she comes on. Thomas has been with Morrison Distiller, and I'm going to apologise now. I am going to slip Morrison Mackay in there by accident.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm sure it's not an uncommon thing. Morrison Distillers since November
last year.
Last year. So yeah. Not so wet behind the ears now.
No, we're getting that way.
We'll have a great chat. Have some drams, showcase the portfolio, just a small snippet of the portfolio that Morrison have to offer. Good evening, Jeremy. We've had a great day. Not just weather-wise, it's been absolutely scorching. I think I've seen 20 degrees at one point. Which is, yeah. So how was yours? Jeremy's over in Norway. Of course, and unable for the first time in how many years? 10 years or something. He is unable to get to Spirit Speyside.
Oh, a shame. Yeah. But here in spirit and here virtually, so that's the main thing, right?
Absolutely. David, good evening on Facebook. I hope you enjoyed your day off today, David. The joys of being self-employed. He decided, you know what, I'm not going to work tomorrow today. So loving that. Rick, good evening or good morning over in San Francisco. That is fantastic. So Rick, we run a whiskey academy twice a year.
Amazing.
So it's a week-long course on whiskey. Rick was over last year. So I'm actually meeting a couple of the guys from that academy tomorrow night at the McAllen Ceilidh.
Oh, nice.
Ceilidh. So
excellent.
A wee reunion there.
Sure. No drams, no drams taken, right?
No drams. No, I'm definitely not. We'll see. Brian's drinking the Ard American gift set of minis that he picked up. I'm watching from Paris. Awesome. Lucky you. Dave, that's a nice blue bottle behind you. Yeah. You did notice the shameless plug. We're going to talk Morrison McCann.
Absolutely.
I had this on the shelf. So yes, shameless plug. We don't normally plug on the Blether, but if you follow ourselves at the shop, you'll know we have Foghouse, which is our gin brand. We've just launched a single cask Pedro Jimenez Octave rum, which we might crack. We can start with it. You want to start with the rum? We'll start with the rum.
Just going to say that sounds fantastic.
We're going to start with the rum. So you can't get this through the shop, but you can get it through our Foghouse website. So we are foghouse.com. And that's my plug. That's all I'm going to say about it. Who doesn't love that sound? So I think this could well be the first rum we've had in a Blether. Potentially.
There you go. There's a Blether exclusive right
Absolutely. So yeah, 49%, 5 years, Caribbean rum, finished in an octave, Pedro Jimenez octave. So, fun.
there. To your health, yeah.
And obviously just opened the bottle, so it'll be interesting to hear your thoughts on that.
49%, did you say?
Yeah, 49%, yeah. So we cut it, and it was lush, straight from the cask, but 61 point something percent, 61.2%. It's very kind of fiery.
Yeah,
So
tougher to get on with.
yeah. And it makes a banging old fashioned.
It's delicious.
So if you're a rum fan, maybe, and a sherry cask fan, there's something for you. Rick, yes, great memories in that room, in this room, from the academy. And who else is there? Any minis? No, sorry, Ryan, there's no minis available of this one. Not officially. I guess we could do a tasting mini for you. Is that a QR code? Rick's asking on YouTube. Rick, you keep confusing us. Every week you do this to us. Rick will join on Facebook and he'll join on YouTube and he'll message from both, and we're like, what's going on here? Yeah, so that QR code will take you to our events calendar, so you can see what events we've got in the shop. Alternatively, go into the shop and click on the events link. That's more for guys who come into the bar for their event. They can quickly scan in. We have Kat in the room. Not physically in the room. So for the guys at home, we always normally start the show with Kat taking a mouthful of tea, and she just had a big swig, noticed I was talking about her, and just about spat it back in. Hello. Oh, and she's gone again.
Oh.
Stay. There you go.
Back, a big message just came up on screen and I disappeared behind it, but I'm back. Sorry, I'm late, everyone.
That's all right. We just poured some rum to start the show.
Awesome. Your new rum, exciting stuff.
Delicious stuff as well, I must say.
It's not going to be the drama of the night, though. We've got some great Morrison Distillers stuff to go through.
That's cool.
How are you?
I'm good. No, I'm not. I'm tired. I'm fine.
Oh boy.
It's been a long. So I forgot it's Spirit of Speyside Festival this week. So I hadn't factored for the distillery being just as busy. It was just going to be the last couple of days. So it's been a lot of long days. So I'm just home, but I've got some coffee, so it's all good. But yeah, nice to meet you, Thomas. Sorry I couldn't be there in person to meet you. But yeah,
no, not at all. Pleasure to meet you. And yeah, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. I appreciate it's busy, a very, very busy week as well.
Yeah, we're not even a Speyside Fest, like a Speyside Distillery, but yeah, just everyone's turned up.
You are this week. Everyone's a Speyside Distillery this week, aren't you?
Yeah, it's good. More the merrier. So it's nice to see. So I love it. Like all these people coming from all around the world to this little corner of Scotland. How awesome is that? It's just such a fun vibe just now. But yeah,
you guys could have totally milked your malt florin this week.
What's that? Sorry.
You guys should have totally milked your malt florin, because I think there's only Balvenie and Speyside who offer that kind of experience.
Yeah, you're probably right, actually. Yeah, I think it might be something we think about next year. Just staff this year. It's all been it's all just sneaked up on us a bit quickly, but who knows? Maybe next year we can organize something. But you speak to people and you say, like, what's your itinerary? Where are you off to next? And they're like, oh yeah, we're going to go to Tormore, and then we're going to go to the Cairn, and then we're going to go to Cardew, and then you're like, wow, have some lunch in between. That's a lot.
Yeah, and I were just talking about that, about how vast Speyside was. We're talking off screen, was it's so big for a festival that there's places, miles about, like an hour drive apart, and you're going from one distillery to the next.
Yeah, normally you'd go, next door at a festival or the next stand, and now it's like, 50 miles down the road.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I know, and people have to book their accommodation accordingly, because if they want to drink, they're having to book accommodation next to the distillery where they're at. So like they're literally moving from, Keith up to like Forest, and then they're staying in Elgin. Like they're having to book loads of accommodation just to go to all these different events. But credit to them for their organization skills. They're awesome. I need them in my life. These people.
Dedication.
Absolutely.
That's cool. So all good.
Cool. Jeremy, as just said on Facebook, Dunphail are doing maltings now. You can turn them off at Dunphail too.
That's interesting to know, because people often ask me what other distilleries have got malting floors in use. So that is interesting to know. I'm going to write that down, Jeremy. You are a wee font of knowledge.
Glengarry. Only Glengarry.
The only place. Yeah.
Guys, if you're up, let's know anyone who's watching at home, if you're up for Space Out Whisky Festival this week, and what you've got planned, and what day you're going to Glengarry to see their malt floor. That would be. Yeah, I think that's 4 times you've mentioned it, guys, who are in the game. That's four drams you're due.
I haven't mentioned it once.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, talking of that distillery, the Morrisons obviously have a huge link, which
absolutely.
is a great segue into Thomas's role as Morrison Distillers brand ambassador. Scotland based, UK based. Everything?
Yeah, a bit of everything, to be honest. We're quite a small team, so I think my role is brand ambassador, so it's not specific to a region, I guess. Like we were talking, and I was in Germany and Limburg at the weekend. I've also been to Rome and Nuremberg this year, but mostly UK, I would say, mostly UK based, looking after UK events and UK customers as well. But then when the opportunity comes to see our bottles and our ranges in different markets, jump at it, to be honest, because it's great to travel and it's really good to have a perspective, and we've got quite a international guys in the chat, so it's nice to see what people are really enjoying, people that know our brand, people that don't know our brand, or brands, and yeah, so it's nice. As much as I can, I like to dot around. So we have one international sales manager, and then me as the brand ambassador, so it's fun. He can't go to everything, and I'm more than happy to fill in when I can. Go. Yeah, it was like go to Rome at the end of February. I was like, yeah, I can probably manage that, which was great. Really, really good. So yeah, and it's fun looking after a really diverse portfolio as well, of drams and brands and different liquids. So yeah, love it, absolutely love it.
We've got Pete Head, who's coming in from YouTube, was in Limburg as well. So
oh, fantastic. Yeah. Limburg was really, really good. First time I've ever been there. Flew into Frankfurt, and then it's just up the road from there. So yeah, it's a really, I don't know how long it's been going on. It's about 10 years, 15 years, something like that. And yeah, it's a mega festival. Really, really good.
You're saying how dedicated the Germans are to
detail. Yeah, they love it. And I love it too. Like I'm a bit of a I think we're all a bit of whiskey nerdery, and so getting into discussions about fermentation time and angles of line arm and all that sort of stuff, really, it's good fun. And the Germans absolutely love it. They love heavily smoked stuff as well. So Mactala does well, and then heavily sherry stuff generally does quite well too. So it's fun, really, really fun.
I always think Germans are great to have on tour, because A, their English is always so amazing. It puts me to shame with my very basic school German. And B, they're always just such a nice crowd. I don't think I've ever had a sort of unenthusiastic or lukewarm reception from Germans, even if they've been like 3-4 times. Every time they come back, they're still just as enthusiastic. And they have so many really good whiskey clubs in Germany as well. Everybody seems to be part of a club in Germany. It's awesome. It must be a really good
absolutely.
kind of whiskey culture out there.
Yeah, and they have good access as well, from my understanding of not just German exclusives, but all sorts of core range stuff, and are very well informed about what's going on in the whiskey world. Certainly Scotch whiskey, and then making their own stuff too. So it's really, really good audience for us.
Have you had a chance to try any German whiskey?
Yeah, I was actually next to Finch German whiskey, and yeah, it was good. It was enjoyable stuff. Similarly, on the other side, I was the only Scotch on the table with our importer, and it's really fun to try different stuff, because in Scotland you don't really have access to other obviously, but it's fun to try different stuff. So yeah, they've got some cool stuff, wacky casks, and real variety.
Is it tied to the oak? Cherry wood or
and they're just not tied to the same stipulations as us as well, and they're right up for experimentation, which excites anyone who's really into whiskey. So no, it was really, really good stuff. Tasty liquid. Yeah.
Angie Gordon's on Facebook. She's saying her mum, dad, 2 brothers all worked there back in the day. I think she's talking about your distillery, Kat. Angie Gordon, very local. So yeah, there you go. A family of gearyists, geary. I'm not sure what you call people.
Cheerigiris.
Cheery gearies. We'll go with that.
That's cool. I wonder if they're all Gordons by name, or if that's Angie's married name. I don't know.
No. Back in the day, sounds like a long time ago. But yeah, well, maybe it wasn't. I heard somebody a wee while ago referring to the 1990s as the late 1900s, and it made my heart sink. I'm like, how are we now so far into 2000s that we're now talking about the late 1900s? Yeah, it's like, come on, play the game.
Yeah, that's a real quick way to make you feel old.
Yeah. Like when you're talking about whiskey in 1990, it's like 30 years old.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm still thinking 30-year-old whiskey's 1980s, 1970s.
Yeah.
That's old whiskey to me. It's like somebody came in and they were looking for a 1974 cask in the shop. And so I'm pretty sure we'll have some then, and realised it's 50 years ago. Do you know how much that's going to cost? It's like, 74 is so long ago.
Yeah, I had the exact same thing. I had a 1974 Benromac actually in Germany, and
nice.
I was like, oh wow, that's old. And he was like, yeah, it's 45 years old. And I was like, didn't think it was that, like wow. But yeah, it feels like not that long ago. But here we are.
Mm-hmm.
It's meant, when you think about let's say like a cask that's 45, 46, 47 years old, like the men or women that made that, probably men, if going back that part of time anyway, like they might even be dead by now. You're literally like standing next to this whiskey that somebody could have died since they've made it. It's crazy. I'm thinking about that in a positive way. Like, we've captured the spirit of them. See how romantic that was.
Continued the legacy.
Yeah. But like the whiskey's been there longer than I
apologize if you're not dead and we're drinking your whiskey, by the way. If you're listening and you've made whiskey and you haven't died yet. That would be let's talk about getting excited about drams and about drams that are maybe not quite as old as 50. What we wanted to do, and it's great having Thomas here in-house because we can talk and taste what he's talking about live to you guys. So we're going to have a look at a wee range because it's not just the independent bottling side. There's blending side, and we also started production at Aberargie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
A couple of years now, is it 2 years?
No, 2017. So So we're like distillers, blenders, and bottlers is our kind of our mantra or scope certainly. So we try and cover it all, but we go in distilling since 2017, November 2017, and but we are releasing it when it's ready to go, as it were. So it's not a case of it got to X amount of age, or we're not waiting until it gets.
I guess that's the great thing about having this.
Yeah.
You're not rushed. You're not saying that.
Yeah,
it needs to be all and end.
It needs to go. Yeah. So we're in the fortunate position where Carmore, Opeth, and McTalla are showcasing a little bit of inventory they have, but also as blenders and bottlers, we can say, this is what we do with spirit from elsewhere. So hopefully, when it comes to it, people will trust that Aberargie Distillery, and once it goes into a bottle, will be really good stuff.
And is it going to be like we talked and looked at the bar and we had the Rassi while we wait kind of idea. Will there be a pre-release?
No.
You've got that skills with as blenders, or is it going to be?
It'll be whenever it is and when it's ready. I would say that's that we're in the fortunate position where there is no massive rush, and also like whiskey's not a short-term industry. You know, it's not we're talking about, you know, distilleries probably up here that go back to 1800 or 1824 or whatever. So it's like, this is a really long-term progressive industry. So we're looking to make our mark on that, you know, onwards past, you know, once it's legally ready or once it's at a certain point. So we're fortunate that we're able to wait until it's of a flavor profile and we have stock and all these sort of things. And hopefully through Carmore, Opeth, and Mactala, we'll be trusted that we know what we're doing with whiskey, which is great.
I mean, the Morrison family know what they're doing.
Yeah,
whiskey for quite a while.
That helps as well. Yeah, we've been in the whiskey game for a long time. Sort of five generations. Most famously owning Bowmore, mid-60s, and then all the way through until the mid-90s, where we had Glengarry and Auchentoshan in our portfolio as well. So yeah, it's a really fun company, fun family to work for, and yeah, a really historic whiskey family, which is fantastic.
So how does? Oh, sorry. I was going to say, how does Jamie? Is it Jamie and Brian that are the family that have
exactly
it? So how do they relate to? So Tim Morrison was the sort of grandson of Stanley Morrison. So how do they connect into what's like the family tie there?
So Brian is Tim Morrison's brother.
Ah, okay.
So Stanley, Brian, and Tim, and then Jamie. So that's the lineage, I guess, or the heritage.
Because I was listening to the podcast, I think it's Whiskey Legends, and I think it was Tim Morrison was interviewed by his grandson. I think it's a really cool podcast. It tells you the history of the Morrison family, and then buying Bowmore, and then buying Glengarry. So yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Figure out who was all who.
Yeah, so that's the family, and I see Jamie very regularly at the distillery, which is great as well. You know, you see these guys on site are actually being part of the business. So it's great family to work for in my experience so far, and know whiskey and have good friends all over the industry, which helps. You know, really, really good.
All right. It's a long kind of legacy, isn't it? It's been around for a long time. That's maybe able to access connections that other maybe newer distillers or newer independent bottlers can't. You've got that kind of portfolio. There's probably some banging old Bowmores in it.
Yeah. There's some good stuff in the warehouse, and yeah, there's lots of cool connections across the board. And I think especially with our Mactala brand, which is our Islay single malt brand, like that's a real kind of, it's a passion where we want to be connected to Islay in some way, through our connections through Bowmore and through that kind of sense of place, sense of home. Islay's meant a lot to the family historically, so it's cool to be able to have access to Islay single malt whiskey and release it as we do.
Does some of that Bowmore make it into Mactala?
That's top secret. That's top secret. You're not the first person to try and catch me out with that. But yeah,
if you don't ask,
my normal response, everyone asks me what distillery is this Mactala release from, and I say I can't tell you, and then they guess one, and I say it could be, and then they guess another, and then I say it could be, and then they guess the whole of Islay, and we've got no further forward. Yeah, so it's
a couple that won't be.
I'm going to say it could be everything. So yeah,
Mike will not stop. He won't stop asking. We had the Aberargie guys on the other day, and he was literally trying to go through every distillery that it could be, trying to catch them out to see if he could find out what was in.
It was more like, let's think of the distilleries that it won't be, and by a process of elimination, it would have been a long time.
Yeah. But we're not, like, the lucky and unlucky thing is that we don't have a distillery on Islay, but also that means that we're not tied to a flavour profile or certain, you expect it to taste like this. So Mactala is a journey of flavour across Islay, showcasing different flavours from the landscape, and really, like I say, identifying different flavors from different places and different senses of place, and that's what Macallan's all about. So yeah, I'm not going to take that.
Talking about if you don't get, Jeremy on Facebook is saying, I know Aberargie is not normally open. Is there any chance of a quick look around for any whiskey geeks passing by?
Definitely in the future, I would say. We hosted our first, I guess, look behind the curtain the day after the Fife Whisky Festival. So we sold tickets to a select number of people. I think it was around 20 people, where we did a tour of Aberargie, which was absolutely brilliant, like a really fantastic day. Yeah. But because we're a working distillery, we don't have a visitor centre, yet, or as such. It's just like the logistics, even the health and safety, all that sort of stuff, which is boring. But it takes a lot to get people on site to say that, to showcase what we do. But hopefully in the future, I would say it's worth a look. But that'll come as and when. But yeah, it's not something that we offer at the moment, unfortunately. It's just it's too tough logistically. With
so you can't just turn up and have a wee look.
No, unfortunately not.
Not yet, Jeremy, but
not yet.
Keep asking.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm advocating for it. So yeah, fingers crossed in the future.
Rick, Kat, here's our compliment for you coming in. We don't get many of them, so it's always nice to announce it. I joke. Rick is saying he was on a live Q&A last night with Simon Brooken, where he was talking about Ardmore Spirit, and he's remembering the great tour we got from you there last year. Obviously, Ardmore is another one that's not open to the public.
Sure.
But we managed to get in through certain connections as part of the Highland Academy. Will we pour our brand?
Absolutely. What's your flavour? I think we start here.
Will we start left to right?
Yeah, that's what I think.
Kat, are you pouring a brand tonight?
I can't. I didn't get time for lunch, and I still haven't had dinner, so it's probably not a good idea if I do whiskey. So I might just stick to the coffee.
Everyone wants to see the real Kat.
Oh, do you want? People have seen how weird I am without alcohol. We don't want to. We don't want to push our luck.
I think I sense a bit of virtual peer pressure coming here.
We've already got Jeremy.
So what do we have here? Let's wet Kat's appetite for whiskey.
And I think this will do it as well, hopefully. So this is our Carmore. I don't know if everyone's familiar, but this is our most traditional independent bottling brand, I guess. So we tell you the distillery, the cask type, the year, all that sort of stuff. So I guess you'll see a lot of this style of independence. Carmore's been around for a number of years now. This is our latest release, which came out in February. This is a Tea 2016, 6 years old. It's in a sherry butt, but it's quite subtle in the sherry. Like it's not a big sherry bomb, and yeah, it's a really nice, easygoing, and it's a phrase that's been done to death, but it's a nice breakfast whiskey. Like it's just super light. It drinks way beyond its years, in my opinion. It says 6 years old, and I think that's what Carmore's good at, is identifying when spirit is ready and saying we're going to bottle that.
And they're not ashamed to put any.
Yeah, absolutely.
People are getting more accepting of younger spirit. We've got a plethora of new age distillers, new world distillers, however you want to call it, are in American locally. You've actually that putting out pretty bang spirit young.
Yeah.
And it's opening people's eyes.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have got away with that 10 years ago.
No, it's a case of showcasing spirit literally when it's ready to go, or when it's at a point where it's like, okay, this is going to make a really good finished product. And that's what this expression does really well. It's not we're not waiting to see what Tea Nick is going to do in the future. It's a case of, this is a really nice single malt Highland whiskey, super grassy, super, like, the sherry doesn't bully it. Really, and I think and I've been a fan of this Carmore USP where they release it at 47.5, or where we release it at 47.5, and it just drinks really nicely at it, and you can add water, but it's not tough to get into. You know, you could pour that and not have to really think about it, and not say it's 60%, or it's similar to what you've done with the rum as well. Just cut it to a point where people can pour it in a glass and enjoy it.
The Carmore across the board is, apart from the celebration of the cask, the Carmore range is 47.8.
47.5. Mostly. We'll get to that, but as a rule, or as a rule of thumb, it's 47.5. This is our Carmore Strictly Limited, which is generally under 15 years, 47.5%, and then either a single cask or a couple of casks, or 3 or 4 casks.
Yeah. And sometimes, did you used to put on how many casks were made?
So we've got the bottle out run, so that's 1478, which probably 3 casks, maybe 4.
Sounds like a good year, doesn't it? 1478.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, and this is interesting because we did, and we'll get to the second drum, but this is the same vintage, same cask makeup, but wildly different in flavor profile. I don't actually know if we've got it in a glass, but like because trying these side by side is something that really fascinates me. As far as on paper they look really similar, but trying them is they're vastly different.
Does he have another glass?
Yeah.
Oh,
Don't ask.
You've been waving your hands around.
Oh, I was going to say, I was waiting to jump in. I thought, has Mike moved the camera, or has it followed Tommy?
No, it's followed. So we have it's
called a motion thing.
Yeah. When you wave your hands, it's like we have great fun on tasting events. So we have so if you come to the room to do a tasting event, we also do virtual. So we have the camera set up so people at home can join in Zoom. But sometimes when somebody gets up in the room and goes to the toilet, the camera just follows them. And the guys are like, we have to keep an eye on it, because the guys will be sitting there for a couple of minutes watching for the guy to come back to the toilet. And you're like, timing him. It's like, how long was that? Yeah, that was a number 1. Luckily, you can't hear it. The microphone's not that good. But yeah, Kat, I think because Kat's a big fan of bourbon casks.
Sure.
And quite not an anti-sherry cask, but you like it where it's not overpowering the spirit. It's not all about the sherry.
Don't have a sweet tooth, and I like when you can taste like the house character of the whiskey. So I think I just found my way into whiskey better through like a refill bourbon, or like a nice bourbon.
I think this will be up your street.
And being one round, like as long as it's not like a massive, heavy, slap you in the face like Pedro Jimenez cask, I'm kind of getting my way into sherry. So this one sounds, and that distillery is not one I know a lot about, and I was waiting for you to pronounce it there, just so I could try and remember how you said it. What is it? It's Tianina.
Yeah, Tianina. It's one that actually it's owned by Diageo, and it was earmarked for one that would do really well in export. It used to be called, I think it was either Strathspey or Glenlivet Tianina, and no one could pronounce it, so it just flopped. And even similarly, like it's so tough to order at a bar because you're like, doesn't look how it sounds, or doesn't look how it's meant to. But
we know all about that with Glengarry.
Exact same vibes.
Because I mean, this must be up there with the unpronounceable. We always talk about Glengarry and Arthrusk as the two that kind of hit that high notes of impossibility.
Heard them all butchered in my time.
It's one that's we tend to get almost a flavour of the month from indie bottlers. The Tianina is kind of one that pops up quite regular. And the indie market, we don't see much as I think there's a Flora and Fauna range.
10-year-olds.
But it's a great spirit, and
that's what these distilleries do, is produce fantastic spirit. Manickmore's another one. It's one of my favourite, pretty niche, but like it's one of my favourite distilleries because it's like just a really, really solid dram wherever you have it across the board, whatever cask it's been in. Like give me a refill manic more, but bourbon any day, and it's just so solid, like really really tasty stuff. So TNA sits in that category. So does Strathmill. And these drams are the backbone of blends for a reason, because they're really really good.
And the beauty of indie bottling is it gives consumers access to these. Otherwise, they just wouldn't get hands on this great spirit. There was kind of, we're probably over it now, but I believe there was maybe mid-90s, early 2000s, hence the Flora and Fauna range came out. This kind of uppity snobbery towards Manic Mortine and the kind of guys that you're just making for blends, it would be crap.
Yeah. I think Mortlach really kicked that trend when they started doing. They've got a core range where it's like 12, 16, 20. Here's a really really solid spirit. Craig Ellicky's probably same as well, where it's like it's a backbone of blends, but it's now a real established single malt brand, and there's others across the board. I don't know,
Ardmore,
Kalila, where they produce a lot of spirit, but a fraction of it makes it to single malt, because it's needed because blends outsell single malt. Like that's absolutely. So solid malts that you need consistency with. Yeah, done.
Ben Marnick, on watching on YouTube, is going to have a banging day tomorrow. He's playing golf with Brian, Tim, and Andrew Morrison.
Excellent.
In the same Whisky Golf Society outing as him tomorrow. I hope you get the same kind of weather today as today. That's going to be a banging day. You're going to tell them all about all the Morrison knowledge you've learned today. If you remember, of course. Hopefully you're joining us in a dram, Ben, and let us know what that dram is.
Yeah, that sounds like a sort of golf society group with a really good connections. That's the sort of people we need to be getting in about with. Need to learn to play golf first, to be fair, but it's hitting a ball with a stick, right? Like, surely anyone can pick that up.
What can go wrong? I made an awful attempt to try to play golf. I started when I was about 14. My first job was working at the golf club restaurant as a waiter.
Yeah.
I kind of knew the lingo. I could talk golf. I thought I need to go out and play, because when I turned 18, I went behind the bar, and I was terrible at it. And for me, it's the kind of thing you have to be at least decent at to enjoy.
To enjoy, yeah.
Nothing worse than being shit at something and having to, especially 18 times.
Yeah.
I mean, if a round of golf was 4 holes, I think I would have stuck at it.
Yeah, but it's 4 hours. Could be down in Troon that he's playing, or I don't know where he's off to, but that sounds like a great day. Really, really good day.
Make sure you've got some old Perth in the hip flask, Ben, and show off.
Yeah, definitely.
Of the ranges, what's your kind of favourite? Or is that
probably Old Perth? It's tough because I think everyone's been on this whiskey journey where you start with X, and then that's what gets you into whiskey, which for me was heavily sherried, because I think it's the most relatable as far as you can taste a heavily sherried whiskey and say, oh, that tastes like something that I've had previously. So you have the reference point of flavour, and then I moved into really heavily peated, and I was like, this is all I want to drink, because it's like nothing I've ever had. And then you go full circle and you're like, I just want something bourbony and light and delicious. So, and again, it's quite cliche to say, but it depends on there we go with the
I think there's certain hand motions it picks up, and it's just like, yeah, you're my master. It's like waving a magic wand.
Yeah.
But it's fine. I mean, people don't need to see me. They see me every week. They don't see you every week. Stay.
It really wants to go back.
Yeah.
Do the Macarena, Mike, if that helps.
It's like a really untrained dog.
It's second.
It's on one of these swivel things.
But so as far as that's like, I loved heavily peated, I love bourbon, and now, like I say, it's cliche to say, but I really changes with my mood, with the seasons, with what I fancy drinking, X, Y, and Z. So at the moment, I'm enjoying really bourbon heavy stuff. Just I think as soon as the clocks change, I'm like, okay, give me something in first fill bourbon or refill bourbon. But yeah, it depends. I've seen myself go into a bar recently and be like, give me something as heavily peated as you can, please. So it just depends. But I've got I love Carmore. I've got a real soft spot for Old Perth. And Mactala. Mactala's just never misses. But I like peated whiskey a little bit less regularly, I would say, and I like it in a highball or a cocktail more than other whiskies, to be honest.
Okay.
So like, give me a penicillin or a smoky cokey or some kind of smoky highball.
Right, I'm actually just going onto Google to look at the camera's commands and figure out how to work the damn thing. So I mean, Thomas, you two talk amongst yourselves.
So you were talking about. Sorry, I was going to ask. Yeah, I was going to ask. I was going to ask a question while you're trying to fix your overly intelligent camera. So my problem is that I've got this weird feedback coming. I don't know whether it's because of the weird setup we have tonight, but all I can hear is my voice, and I know how irritating I sound. So sorry, guys, that left to listen to me every week. I'll ask you a question anyway. So you're talking about like on these unusual distilleries. What would be your perfect bottle to whiskey to get hold of as a release for Carmore? If you could like choose any distillery in any cask, what would you want?
Oh, that's a great question. I spoke about Manickmore, and Carmore did a 1990 Manickmore, and I think it was like cask strength 44.8%, around that number, bourbon cask, and I think it was like 26 or 27 years old. It might have been some like around that number, and that was pretty much my ideal whiskey. But in the same vein, it could be Linkwood. Big fan of Linkwood as a spirit in bourbon. Yeah, everyone's a fan of Glenburgie, right? So that same vein, Bowmore. But yeah, it would be in bourbon. For my ideal like distillery character, whatever. Even a super old Bowmore in bourbon would be fine. That
would be
yeah.
awesome. Yeah, I think that might be my go-to one. That sort of old style Bowmore in a bourbon cask. I did when I went out to work at Bowmore. It was before COVID. We did the vault, the tour, and I got.
Okay, sure.
I can't remember how old I was. We got to choose a bourbon or a sherry, and I got this bourbon one. It's absolutely gorgeous. Oh, hello, Mike. You're back. Oh no, you're away.
Stick on me long enough. So if I do this, apparently it cancels the target, but it just looks like I'm now wagging my finger at you. Is that going to work?
Do you remember we had this problem last time when we had Chris, that's right. We should have maybe Googled it after that event because it kept following me around the room and ignoring Chris.
What I'm going to do is change it to the laptop camera.
So I think Jeremy agrees with you about the Glenburgie as well. He seems to be a fan of that one.
Yeah, it's got a bit of a cult following, and it's a great spirit. It's one of those that if there's a Facebook group, I think it's what about Glenburgie or something like that. Become a member of that, and you'll see all the Glenburgies out in the wild.
I think Mike has put you're on mute now. Oh no, you're back again. You were accidentally on mute there for a second, but you're back. No, I think you're still on mute because now we can't hear you. I don't think you've got any sound, Mike. I mean, So the guys at home, can you hear anybody? Can you hear me, or is it just Mike that's out? Let me know if you can hear me at least, so I know that I'm not just talking to nobody. Because I could fill in for a while. I could sing or tell some jokes. Hi Jeremy, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for staying. We could just have a general chat, everyone. Awesome. What if you guys at home? Oh, he's back. He's back. There you go.
We're going to stay quiet because we're just going to get you to sing, even though we could probably.
Don't do that to me again. I was like, hi guys. Let's know each other.
We've been fine for about 4 minutes. We just like to see you wallow.
Oh, God. I need to at least have some dinner before you leave in a situation like that. You're back.
Sometimes tech is good. Sometimes it's really not. So,
Dave, you don't want to hear me sing, honestly. Like, I got asked to stop playing the recorder at choir at school. They're just like, no, just stop. You're no good in it.
We've had 3 requests for you to sing.
Yeah, open mic.
I think.
Maybe we'll do a karaoke.
What would be your karaoke? What would be your karaoke song, Kat?
Oh my God, that's a question. I've never done karaoke before. So what would my? Yeah, I need more time to think about that. I don't know.
Anything by the Shadows.
Okay.
Which is quite a cop out because it was instrumental.
Oh.
That helps.
I did once do Buddy Holly's My Ding-a-Ling on a karaoke. That went down terribly.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, what's the classic ones? Like, I don't know, like 9 to 5 or something, like Dolly Parton, or like I don't know.
I guess what you want to do is do a song that
a short one,
but a song that everyone else will join in.
Yeah.
So they're singing for you, and you just kind of like,
point the mic.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
No. That's if I'm singing, send me home.
That's the end of the night.
Yeah. That's kind of here.
I was out last Saturday after work, and I made the mistake of telling a colleague that I hated country and western music, and Mike knows this because Mike loves country and western music. But it makes me want to jab sharp things in my ears. So we were out for dinner, and then we went to the pub, which ironically was having a country and western themed night. So I was stuck there for the whole night with middle-aged men dressed as cowboys, listening to like Kenny Rogers. For some reason, there was a woman dressed as a unicorn also, and I'm not too sure she was in the right place. Then my colleague, who's only up for the weekend from Edinburgh, he filled the playlist in the visitor centre sporadically with country and western music. It's not even, it's like one after the other. Every like maybe 5 to 6 songs, one will appear. I cannot get them all off the list. That's Elliot. He is a twat. Elliot, if you're watching, I am still deleting Kenny Rogers from the playlist. Like, how many did you put on there? Oh my God. Absolute rage.
Everyone watching is going to be doing a tour of Glengarry, and Elliot's going to be doing it. You're like, so you're Kat's friend.
He put that Beyonce one as well. I don't know, whatever it's called. I love Beyonce.
The poker one, Texas Hold'em.
She's hurt my heart doing this.
Do you know what annoys me about that is that there's going to be a lot of people now following country music because she started singing country music, and it's not for me. It's not her reviving country music. She's latched on to country music.
Isn't she from Texas though? It's like, isn't she from Texas though? Is that like where all the yeehaw music comes from?
Yeehaw music.
So no, not really. I mean, country music is worldwide. You get Irish country, you get Scots country, you get. I like Scottish. You're talking about a very specific section of country music. You're talking kind of 50s, 60s, 70s. You know, my wife's left, my dog's died, and I crashed my truck into a tree.
I'm drinking whiskey.
Yeah. But there's such a Dave Harrison, Jim Reeves, you know, that kind of thing. But there's such a massive influx of great country music on the go down. My son was born to Luke Combs singing about beer never breaking his heart. You know, that's the song that Killian was born to. So,
I mean, yeah. You know, you don't need to like everything in the world, though. It's fine. Like the less I listen to it, the more there is for everyone else.
Little and often.
Music's like whiskey in that way, I think. And I've said it quite often is your mood is dependent on what songs, what whiskey, who you're with, what the occasion is. They're so intertwined. Some whiskey, I think we should do a tasting one day where we do a song per dram. They have to be quite long songs because that every 4 minutes might end up quite messy.
It's the throwback bar of an album.
But they do say that about like how different sounds can affect how you feel about or how you taste things. So like if I was doing a tasting and they're playing country and western music, I would hate every whiskey that I had.
But like, of emotions.
yeah.
But yeah, I think like certain sounds are meant to like influence how you like taste things, isn't it? I think there's like a lot of research into it. I don't know. I started down a point and kind of lost it halfway, but yeah, there's maybe that's pretty much what I do every week, isn't it? Pretty sure last week I was talking about swans chasing a ferry for some reason. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, interestingly enough, our viewing figures has almost doubled in the last like 3 minutes talking about music. So
because we started talking shit. Maybe we should just call it whiskey and occasionally chat.
Beyonce's from Houston, says Ben.
That's Texas, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. I'm not sure you're right about that's where country music comes from, but
maybe not. But they've got a lot of cows there, right? And country music definitely involves cows somewhere along the line.
Can we pour another whiskey?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm just going to take a little bit of this, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
you mentioned
please,
doing this side by side.
Yeah,
and we got distracted.
Can I just say that I'm very jealous watching all this happening? I'll just sit quietly while you pour all your amazing drams. Don't you mind me?
Yeah, because this, like these two, we did at the same time as a release, and it was two same vintage, I guess, 2016. This one's 7 years old. The first with the teen was 6 years old. This is a Strathmill sherry butts, same percentage, similar-ish outrun. You know, slightly bigger, but even like they're miles apart on the nose. They're miles apart on the palate, and that's where like distillery character, I guess, as we were talking about, Kat, really shines even in sherry. Like this'll put you onto sherry, I guess.
Even if you look at that colour, that's older.
Yeah,
a year older. It's a bigger outrun. So I don't know if you guys can see quite clearly the difference in the bottle of those two.
Yeah. It just goes to show you that colour isn't everything. When people come in and they just want the darkest thing on the shelf, it's not always an indicator of what they think it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything in the fact that that's sherry butts plural, that's sherry butt? Probably not.
I would say no. But good spot. Because they both come from the same type of wood, but this is a lot. The Strathmill is a lot more like toffee caramel. I would say like sweeter side of sherry.
It's lighter. You can tell, and it's easy to say that looking at the label. A space out in the Highlands. This is a bit deeper, a bit meatier is maybe the wrong word because it's not savouring anything.
Robust, I would say. Yeah. But yeah, and that's like I think what Carmore's always been about is showcasing distilleries, and like as you wouldn't see them, like you don't see any real Strathmill, you don't see a lot of teen in it. So showcasing these distilleries, and I think that's great that they're 6 and 7 years old. They've got so much flavour and they're so vastly different. Whereas on paper, you would maybe look at them and say, they'll probably taste pretty similar, but they're miles apart. Which is like, as I say, we did them in the same time as the release, and I've always encouraged people to try them side by side because I think that
fascinatingly different, and you can have a favourite, have a second favourite, and that's absolutely fine, and that will change depending on your palate. But yeah, I think the first one's a lot more savoury, and the second one's a lot more sweet.
Yeah.
I think the first one sounds like my sort of thing. What is the reason for the different coloured labels? Because I'm just weird, and I just
They're regionalised.
As regions.
So,
okay.
Blue is Highlands, pink is Speyside, grey is Islands, green is Lowlands, and so on and so forth. So it's a nice point of, like, if you look at a back bar, or even if you have a photo, or if you say, I like the blue Carmores, or, you know, even though they're all really different, it's just nice to say this is where it comes from, just regionally. Even though the regions are vast, so you'll see a lot more pink than you do blue, just because we you know, the access to Speyside distilleries is more than Highlands.
Do you have an idea that when the guys who are buying the cask, are they buying a cask with a vision that is going into a Carmore range, or is it once it's in the warehouse, once it's sampled it, right, we're going to use that for a blend, we're going to use that for a Carmore or a celebration, or
a bit of both, because whiskey is very fluid, despite the pun. But you know, like a cask that you expect to do something doesn't always do that. So you've got to have your options open, as far as this cask might go into Old Perth, which is all Speyside malts. This cask might go into Carmore. This cask might be ready for 40 years of sitting there, or 50 years of sitting there. So it really depends.
So I guess you're not buying one cask; you're buying parcels of.
Exactly. You know, we're
20.
We're talking. You know, it's a bigger scale, and I think that's what's always fascinating me about Scotch whisky, is that we're not talking, you know, one cask, or sometimes we are, but like, we're not talking for general releases one cask. We're talking about parcels of stock. We're talking about, with Old Perth in particular, we're talking about a flavour that we're looking for, plus a cask, plus you know, everything. So yeah, it just depends. It just depends. And also some of these casks will come and go, you know, before they see bottle. So
yeah. Is there anything lurking in the background that you can't wait to try?
Yeah, well, I've tried it, but our next Old Perth limited edition, which will be with you in June, is a banger, an absolute banger. Our next Mactala release is also fantastic. Completely different, both of which are completely different from what we've done in the past, flavor profile wise. But having tried them both, absolutely delicious liquid. And from a storytelling point of view, we'll get onto Old Perth soon, but really, really cool to see the process of selecting casks and saying this is ready to go, or this is how we continue the journey of flavor, or the flavor profile. So yeah, both of those, and Carmore for me always hits.
Do you find the Old Perth harder to kind of talk about or sell because it's a blend, or blended malt, isn't it? So a blended malt, yeah.
It's a blended malt, yeah. I find it no harder to talk about. I find it easier to talk about. But in terms of selling, you know, blends get a tough time. But once you have someone for 5 minutes saying we are a blended malt, we are putting Speyside malts exclusively, we're paying single malt prices for it because we buy stock from Speyside, and then we are going to all the time and effort to mature it ourselves in different sherry casks. Old Perth is only matured in sherry, and we are looking for our core range, certainly a consistent product, so we don't batch them. So Old Perth Original 12 and Cask Strength are all continuous products that, you know, we don't say this is batch 1, batch 2, batch 3. So it's going to taste the same all the time, which is tough to do. Once we do a bottling of those, everything goes back to wood. So it's not a case of sitting in IBCs or stainless steel. Right. Everything after a bottling run, if there's an excess, goes back into oak. So we want to get the most out of the wood. Okay. Labour intensive, Similarly with buying spirit, it's expensive. Buying sherry cask is expensive. So like there's no poo-pooing blends from my perspective. And I love talking about it's a craft of putting this together, of finding different distillates that work and finding flavor profiles that work together with wood. So but people want single malt, I guess, a lot of the time. But you know, if I get 5 minutes with someone to say, this is the time and effort that's gone into this product that's in front of you, and that's
because the skill, I mean, for something like a single cask, say, and a lot of people think a single cask is kind of the peak of whiskey production. You know, single malt is one single cask in its purest form, whatever. But the skill that goes into that is nowhere near a blend or a single malt, in the fact that a single malt is a marriage of casks as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Getting that flavour consistency, it's very easy to say, right, the wood has done the work here. We've got a banging single cask. It's absolutely fantastic. Cask strength and the flavour's all there. But nobody's really put that. Somebody's made a decision
that it's tasty.
That's ready,
yeah.
Whereas a blend or a single malt, and we're talking about a single malt for those. I'm going to assume that everyone who's watching tonight is kind of of a level of whiskey knowledge where you know where I'm going with this. But a single malt is, although it's one distillery, it's a marriage of different casks from that distillery. So Glendronach 12-year-old, Glengarry 12-year-old, is made up of a batch of casks. So they're blending that effectively together. But we call it single malt because it's one distillery. Blended malt was done exactly the same way. It's just from different distilleries rather than one.
Absolutely.
And to get that consistency when you're not working with the same spirit all the time is phenomenal.
Yeah,
that's
or the same wood, you know, like, and just seeing that development, but also being like, this is the flavor that we are looking for consistently, time and time
and
again.
You don't have that backup of a fairly neutral. I mean, grain whiskey is grain whiskey. It's not neutral completely, but the volume of grain helps with that consistency, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And you don't have that with a blended malt.
No, you've got very distinctive. I mean, there's two great examples of distillate, which, you know, we're getting into, you know, the geekery of it, where like what goes into this distillation versus what goes into this distillation. These have spent time in the same kind of wood for the same amount of time.
Vastly different.
Hugely different. So then you chuck in however many malts you want to blend together, plus cask type. Yeah, I think it's absolutely fascinating, the blended malt category, and especially Old Perth's exploration of sherry oak. You know, our original is Oloroso, our 12 is a mixture of PX, Paolo Cortado, and the next Old Perth to come is really interesting. I can't say too much at the moment, but I'll be with you. I'll be with you shortly.
Yeah. I could tell you, but I'm not going to. Top secret.
You could tell me later, right?
We could whisper it, maybe.
You had quite a few of them in last year because they look so cool up on the shelf altogether, because they're all like kind of, they're really, I like nice packaging. I'm that superficial. But when you see them all side by side on the shelf, they just look really impressive. Like, you just want to have them because they just look really nice all together.
Yeah.
And you're gutted when one sells out because that color.
It annoys me. I'm like, you put that back right now.
It's the last one. You can buy the bottle, but leave the box.
Leave the bottle.
Yeah, it's a nice. I was saying actually downstairs earlier that like people also remember the colors, as far as, you know, the super, like, oh, I like the purple one, or I like the blue one, or I like, and, you know, it doesn't take you don't have to be like, oh, I like the one that was 15% PX, you know, the rest Oloroso. It's like, oh yeah, no, I enjoyed the orange Old Perth, like, great, you know, and that's really nice. So the superficial does help, and yeah, I'm happy with that.
That's cool.
David Muir has commented, Kat, that he thinks you're sitting in front of a mirror doing your hair before a night out.
I wasn't. I was just releasing the hair just for 5 minutes.
we have a thing about cat's hair, and there was a period of time when it was like 20 minutes in, the hair would come down, and then maybe an hour in, it would go back up. We tend to forget about your hair now. We haven't talked about your hair in a while.
Well, it's because I stopped doing it because I was so aware of the fact. So I play with my hair a lot. I didn't know I did it until all the comments started appearing. Oh, the hair's down, must be 8 o'clock. So I've deliberately stopped letting my hair down. And then I went to go and do it. I thought, shit, my hair, but I can't stop now. I'm gonna have to let it down. So yeah, I've slipped up this week, unfortunately, and I'm going back to old habits. But I think it's because I'm tired tonight. But anyway, the hair can be down. I can just fill half the screen with the hair. If I was doing my hair for a night out, Dave, it wouldn't look as shit as this. I would have put some effort in. I can't stay single forever, David. I've got to actually put some effort in when I do my hair. Anywho's, back to whiskey.
Moving on. Back to whiskey, yeah. So yeah, we've kind of focused quite a lot on blends recently. With the Blether, we had the Ardrey guys in, we had Chivas with Valentine's, and so yeah, we absolutely love a blend, as much as single malt.
Yeah, and I think you make a really good point about the single cask, single malts, where you're like, here's a fabulous product, but then if you go to a blend or a blended malt, you're looking for something consistent and it tastes the same all the time. And then we branch out from there.
So we'll try the.
Yeah.
So this is a sherry cask.
This is a sherry cask,
but it's not a sherry bomb. None of these have been sherry bombs, but these are kind of more familiar. I'm guessing Oloroso sherries that have been used for these.
Yeah. So our head of production, Graham, loves working with Oloroso because you can pick out so many different flavors from, depending on how active the cask is, depending on what's how many times it's been used, all that sort of stuff. You can pick out really different flavors. Whereas this is a Paulo Cortado, which is a sherry that might not be as familiar with people, just because there's not a lot of it, to be honest. There's way more Oloroso and PX sherry on the market. Paulo Cortado is a much kind of drier side of sherry, whereas PX is the most sweet that you could imagine, sugar content wise. This is a lot drier, but has the nose of an Oloroso, nutty, orangey,
orange peel.
Yeah, like I think that this is like a big boozy old fashioned. Like if you make your old fashioned with like walnut bitters, this is it. Slightly overproof, 55.8, but
is that natural or
it's batch strength? Yeah. So we like to kind of show overproof, but it doesn't always need to be 59, 60, whatever. So it's just a case of it's drinking strength, or it's you can get a bit fun with it. You can add water depending on how you feel.
Do you know what that reminds me of? Is barley sugar sweets.
Yeah, it's got that like kind of, like I say, that Oloroso nose where it's nutty, like fruit nut chocolate, but then it really lifts it with the orange zest. And then on the palate, it's much drier than you would get from Oloroso. It's not super chocolatey. Yeah, and it's just a really fun exploration of how different sherries impact different whiskies. Takes the water quite nicely if you find it a little spicy. Yeah, but not a sherry bomb. No. So we did a PX last year as well, which was like dark as the night, super sticky.
I can imagine it's so.
Yeah, and the difference between this and that, I mean, it's a different recipe as well. Yeah. So we re-recipe with all our old Perth limited editions. So we're working with spirit versus wood and see what works. But yeah, I think it's delicious.
This sounds awesome. I don't think I've actually tried that one before, but I'll have to nip into the shop. I'm off on Saturday. No. I might just nip in on Saturday. I'd be like,
do you have to be? Do you want to come in?
Get to work. Well, I actually maybe got I think I forgot. I'm actually very, very busy at the weekend.
Oh, darn. Yeah.
The old pair's worth it.
Yeah. She's getting her hair done.
I'll probably just be catching up on bloody housework. How miserable is that? But yeah, no, it's. Do you know, I'm terrible because I know it's a sherry one, and I always thought it wouldn't be for me, but when you just described it, because it does look quite dark in the bottle, but I guess that's just me being like maybe.
I think if we put it next to a traditionally heavily sherried whiskey, you got a Glenallachie 18 up there or something like that.
I guess another core range sherry cask. Yeah, here.
We're a few shades down from that.
Yeah, definitely.
It's very similar to the Glengarry 12 actually in colour. Looking at it,
Okay.
So yeah, it's not.
Yeah, I mean it's had a lot of sherry influence, but it's not. I guess a traditional sherry bomb where you're like, oh, it's Christmas cake, or it's
Palo Cortado is the sherry that's made by accident, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. So it's intention. It's meant to be a pheno, but then there's a chemical process. The floor falls, and then you're basically it oxidizes, and then just before it becomes an Oloroso, this is Palo Cortado. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I think it's something that you can get on with very, very easily. Completely different to these two, completely different to anything that I've seen. I would say there's not a lot of Palo Cortado. I've seen slightly more in recent years, but or in recent months, I guess. But yeah, super interesting, and again, continuing the exploration of sherry within blended malts and showcasing that it can have a huge impact on versus distillate.
Does the style of sherry have an impact on the cost of the cask, or is it a general one rule fits all?
No, I would say it does.
Less
limited. Same as, I guess, on a broader scale, it's the same as bourbon versus sherry. There's more availability with bourbon, so it's cheaper.
Yeah.
So even within sherry, so there's more availability.
Is that why distilleries are now looking at Palo Cortado, Pinots, Amontillado as maybe a point of difference first and foremost, but it's available, it's there, and it's maybe a little bit cheaper?
No, I would say it's
more expensive.
Yeah, I would say that it's a point of difference in flavor profile, and I think that's where we're trying to go is to push the boundaries and explore different sherry maturation. People are familiar with how a PX tastes, and broadly tastes similar. If it's been in a super active PX cask for any amount of years, it's like, okay, this is sherry heavy. It's PX. Whereas this allows us to kind of manipulate or draw out different flavors from different distillates, as well as the sherry itself.
Yeah.
So,
do you know the batch size on that one?
7,800 bottles. Is it?
Yep, you're right.
There you go. Big tip.
You passed the test.
Passed the test.
Yeah.
So Tim Powell's is enjoying the sound of it. He's enjoyed all three old perfs that I've had. Let us know what you've had, Tim, from the old perf collection. He's going to have to look no further than InverurieWhiskyShop.com. Tim, we don't normally do plugs, but there's my two for the day.
And the Palo Cortado will be beautifully different to what you've had, I guess. The 12-year-old has got a real special place for me because I think it's one of the tastiest, most easy drinking, most complex around. It's got a little bit of PX influence. It's got a lot of Oloroso, a lot of refill, 46%. Just give me a large one. It's really, really tasty stuff.
What surprises me about that is we've jumped up 7-8%. That doesn't taste like.
No.
I put a touch of water in it, tiny little bit. but it drinks so easy
Yeah,
as well.
and that's again, that's what like the Old Perth kind of, and McTalla does it well as well with our limited releases, where it's like it gets it to a drinking point where it's like, okay, you can enjoy it neat, you can add a splash of water, and it's not 46. It's still like a little bit above. Like I really like drinking whiskey. Like normally my brief would be around about 50%, and then go from there. You know, it doesn't need to be 60. It doesn't need to be 40. So you know, it's just. But again, it's whatever you enjoy. So it gives you that option to add a little water and go from there.
I think Jeremy's
Jade.
asking what the cask. Oh, sorry, Mike. We've got a delay.
Just what you did is exactly the same, Kat. You can ask.
What the casks used in the June release were again, please. Winky face. In case you need the whole. If you need the whole sentence.
Yeah. Coming soon. Coming very soon. If you pop into Inverurie Whisky Shop, you might get it firsthand. But I can't say just yet.
Yes,
Is it gonna be
David,
a
don't
first
accidentally.
again, or is it more core release?
No.
So it's going to be as part of.
Give me a
this kind of-
limited release. Yeah.
I was just saying to David, don't accidentally send it to your son again, because he sent his son the Ard Layer last
The
week, wasn't it?
Hard layer from Glasgow. Yeah, but the Glasgow guys on last week. And we talked about an hard layer, which was doing phenomenally well on the Blether. David bought one. Got as you do sometimes when you use online quite a bit, it automatically fills out
Oh, sure.
the address and whatnot. So I think David was the last bottle he bought was for his son.
Got sent elsewhere.
So he sent it to his son.
Brilliant.
But it's your son's birthday coming up soon, so I think you just there's an early birthday present. But please keep me a dram.
I haven't bought it yet either. I need to get.
It's all gone. It's sold out.
Are you for real?
I don't know.
I'd be raging if it was. Oh, I promoted it too well last week. I didn't even get a cut out of it. But well, I will somewhere along the line.
Jeremy, the casks used in the June release have not been released. So watch this space.
Not been communicated, but they're firm. So it's
And all Old Perth is sherry, is
yes,
that right?
exclusively sherry.
Exclusively sherry.
Yeah.
So technically, you've got a 1 in 7 chance of guessing it.
Yeah.
And
it'll be the similar McTalla. Yeah, it'll be the similar McTalla story. You can guess. You can guess them all, and I'll say could be.
It's not been released yet under the Old Perth name.
No, not yet. But
So
it's
chip
to come.
away.
But it's really, really tasty, and I would encourage anyone to. Obviously, I would because I work with them. But like genuinely, if you're like you guys are whiskey fans, so trying it is really super interesting. And you know, I'm a whiskey enthusiast first and foremost before a salesman. So it's an interesting one. And yeah, you've got a wee sample of it to try, so you'll enjoy it.
Honestly, like worst night to go home. Like,
What is it you said? It could be.
Could be, yeah, absolutely. Could be, Jeremy.
he's just going to keep going through all the sherries until you're going to keep getting the same answer, Jeremy.
I'm going to because I am a crap liar. I'm just not going to mention anything.
Well, unless if you guess PX, I'm going to say no. So that's the only one that I'll say firm no to.
It's not Palo Cortado.
Yeah, it's not. It's not Palo Cortado either.
But yeah, so I was just going to get because normally we say what's your background, where do you come from, what's yours. You just mentioned that you're a whiskey enthusiast first and foremost.
Yeah.
You walk into a whiskey bar. What do you look for? What's the kind of? Do you have a go-to that you want to set a level at, or is it always something different?
I'm honestly wide open. I'm from Fife, so I'm always like, well, what's good value?
Got some Daphne on the shelf.
Yeah, absolutely. So it depends on my mood, and I love going to whiskey bars. I worked in a whiskey bar for a long time, Scotch bar at the Bowmore. So that gave me access to some cool drams and kind of good learning curve for all things whiskey. When I'm going into a whiskey bar, it really depends on what I fancy. At the moment, it's everything bourbon matured or something heavily peated. Like that's my two go-tos.
So heavily peated in a bourbon cask.
It could be anything. Yeah, it could be anything that takes my fancy. I like things that are pretty old and dignified as well. That's always one for me. I think that's what Carmore's done well in the past. It's just like something that's big for its age and well priced.
I think some of our viewers fall into that category as well.
Old and dignified. Brilliant. But yeah, no, it just depends. Yeah, really depends on what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
But I'd like to go in and have a good look. Literally came in here and didn't really speak to you for the first 5 minutes because I was just looking around and shouting out names and shouting out drams. So that's kind of like I say, whiskey first. So it really depends on what I fancy. What's your go-to?
So we had a chat, and I've kind of commented this in a few Blethers before. Is you look for the Glenfiddich and you go two to the left.
Okay, sure.
You find something different every time, and then you decide from there. And I think that's quite a nice, because every bar in the world will have a Glenfiddich.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a good way of starting your journey, unless you're obviously in with somebody who knows the bar or whatever. But I think that's a nice way of finding something different and then taking the taste. If you like it, great. What have you got? I'm a big believer of using the bar staff, especially if in a whiskey bar. You kind of special pot still one accord, Ushka Bay Bar, and
absolutely,
fantastic place. But yeah, use the bar staff and say what have you got that's new? What do you recommend?
Yeah,
I agree. And it's something we always do. We try and do down the stairs as well in the shop. What do you like, or what have you had recently that you've really enjoyed?
What are you enjoying? Yeah, absolutely.
And you use them because that's what you're paying that extra. I wouldn't say premium price, but you could go to a supermarket and you could buy something from the shelf.
Yeah,
the person who's stacking the shelves isn't going to be able to give you expert advice.
Yeah,
that's why you come to a shop like ourselves. You go to a whiskey bar. You go to independent ballers. You say, use the advice that you're paying for that little bit extra to get the advice to make sure that you're going away with something, or you're trying something that it is different. It's new. It's special. It's down your street.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would always use the bar staff's advice.
Yeah, that's a great mantra, to be fair, especially if you like it all, and you're just like, or if you enjoy it all, you can appreciate it all. You're like, what are you enjoying and why?
Yeah,
and then you get a story along with it.
Tarts when it comes to
there's
not much that we don't.
Aren't we all?
But Cat doesn't like a big heavy sherry bomb. It's just you've given a few a go, haven't you? You've enjoyed it.
I think I probably just need to try more. I think. I mean, your taste changes as you get older. It's like maybe one day I'll be like, only wanting to drink sherry when sherry casks don't exist anymore and we're all drinking bourbon instead. But
there's also that psychological thing as well, isn't it? Where you're like, oh, everyone drinks sherry, so I'm going to be against the norm, and I'm just going to when you get to that kind of.
I've just been anti. I decided early on that I didn't like sherry when I first started at the distillery, and we went through all the samples. You got I thought, oh, that's just a bit like, sweet. It's just, I don't like cake, and everybody kept talking about Christmas cake, and it's the most overutilized kind of tasting note, but it works as well. And I don't know, it's not a flavor that I particularly look for. But yeah, I am getting into it. Like we've done some, I've tried some great things working for you, Mike, and a lot of them are sherry, and I've enjoyed them and appreciated them, but it probably just wouldn't be my go-to if I had a choice. But yeah, always willing to try new things. And that is it. Just keep trying and finding new things. And it depends, as you said, Thomas, as well. It depends on like the time of day. Like sometimes in the winter time, you kind of want, like, if I'm drinking wine, I want like a really big, heavy, like cozy, kind of spicy red wine. And like maybe want more of a sort of sherry based kind of smoky whiskey like for example, like Woody's, the Williamson. I mean, that's a massive like smoky PX, and I absolutely love that. It doesn't get much sweeter,
Yeah.
but I'd probably
It's
only
like
really go for that.
Frazzles, isn't it?
What's that?
Yeah.
We did the
Like
McTavish.
Frazzles,
Yeah,
yeah.
the McTavish
Yeah.
was just smoking bacon crisp. Like
Yeah.
it was just
It's so good.
yeah.
So good.
That's
Good
exactly
evening,
it.
Fraser, who's joined us very late tonight. He's poured the Carmore Ben Nevis, which is a banging dram.
Yeah.
I love Ben Nevis in the bottle. It's big.
always flies, and you also you don't always know what you're going to get. Like
Yeah.
you know, it's just it's quite varied.
Such a bizarre spirit.
Yeah.
But great fun.
That should be their tagline. Bizarre but great fun. They should their brand team should use that. Maybe we should all be a bit more honest about whiskey. Like, you know, when people write car ads, it's just like, you know, car's a bit shit, you know, only goes into second gear. Like, you know, if you're doing 30 miles an hour, the wing mirror's falling off. You know, like those car ads. Maybe distilleries just need to be a bit more honest and say, yeah, it's a bit weird, but, you know, we like it.
Goes from A to B.
What you don't want from when you're buying a whiskey is one previous owner. You don't want that. Multiple previous
One
owners.
careful female owner.
Yeah,
maybe don't.
Yeah.
I always think it's weird if people are buying like single casks online, that they've done like a bottle of your own at distilleries. You literally own a whiskey that's got somebody else's name on it. I always find that really weird. It's like, who is that? That you know, but I just don't suppose it matters if you're.
Oh, like a handful.
Yeah, you see them like popping up online, and you know that somebody else has written their name on it. Unless if no, you have to write something on it before you can go out the store, don't you? You can't.
Maybe got the same name as you.
That's niche. That's real. I like, yeah, Jack Smith, like you know, like or Mr. Smith, just
Mr.
like
Smith,
okay, fine.
No, you're like
Yeah,
me.
I
You've
mean-
got two first names
Yeah,
in your name, so yeah.
Cuthbert's quite a niche name if that's your first name. To be honest, you don't come across many Cuthberts out there.
I get Cuthbert's son more than I get Cuthbert. People just assume that it's Cuthbert's son. But
Really?
yeah. But Thomas is found like us, my old man, his old man, and
Right.
so we go.
Right,
So,
and you go.
Yeah.
We were looking back and we're talking casks, and one of my favourites is the port finish or a port cask, which is not scripted segue into our next round. But I do love for folk who know me know that I started a Facebook page which is nowhere near as kind of explosive as the Sherry Bomb Whisky Association or anything like that. But we've got a port cask Whisky Association.
Oh, class.
Fan
Yeah.
club basically. So I do love port casks, which I just think they work really well with certain spirits. And funnily enough, Glenallachie is one of my favourite spirits. I don't think it works with port.
Okay.
But I've had quite a lot of port casks. I don't think works with it. But guys like Spey Distillery really well.
Yeah.
That tenny. You okay?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't get it on silent quick enough. I just thought I'd do it quietly. Sorry. Carry on.
Yeah. So which interestingly brings us to
What's some of your favourite podcast stuff?
Cohoman did a port cask 2 years ago, maybe longer than that. It was no, it must be 3 years ago because it was during lockdown. It was 2021. They took out a port cask, which was just absolutely phenomenal. More recently, I was saying we had David Stark in for a tasting.
Yeah,
Not too long ago, he released an Ardmore, a 9-year-old in a tawny port cask.
sure.
And just before that, he had a Bed Rinnis in a port cask. I really like that bittersweet raspberry, almost raspberry crannican kind of flavor
Yeah,
you get from
absolutely.
it. They just come out. And just,
Ardmore
Phenomenal.
works really well in port. It's a
Yes, it
really good
does.
combination.
you
And
still
Glenmorangie
need to
works
give me
well in
access
port.
to that cask that you've got in the warehouse just now. I'm not going to let that one go. I'm going to steal a cask. I'm going to break in to that warehouse. And I know where they are. And I know what they do.
I think you've almost given it away as well. If there is a theft, you know, we now have recorded evidence. Your defense is
got-
not looking great.
I've got alibis. I could be somewhere else at the time.
I was with Kath at the time. Don't drag me into this mess.
Yeah. What have we got? Tim's just put a comment. We'll check you out. Please do, Tim. A couple of the originals and one cast strength. Really nice, nicely integrated. Yeah. So Tim tried a couple of the old parts.
Yeah.
Before, so.
I think integration is the big word there, where you're like, okay, here's sherry and different distillates or different malts from all over space, and you're like, okay, this works together. As I said, I can't shout out Graham enough to be like, he loves working with sherry, especially Oloroso, to be like, this just works across the board. So yeah, glad to hear it.
One of my favorite whiskies from you guys was back under Peter Mackay, who was the family of Mackay's, where Morrison Mackay was on the go, and it was in our Thrusk 15-year-old that's finishing a port, and you know how you get chill filtration, or if you don't have chill filtration, it goes a little bit hazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was one of these, because of the wine cask impact, it never cleared again. It held that haze.
Wow.
And it just, for me, it gave it a really interesting mouthfeel. It was just quite thick and quite syrupy, and the flavour was.
What point of difference that is? You're just like, it just doesn't
It's just not clear. And because I remember speaking to Peter about it, I was like, this, and we were quite. Morrison Mackay were one of the first indie bottlers we took in after Gordon MacPhail, who really helped us sell. And I didn't fully understand chill filtration at the time, and I was like, I kind of get it, but I always thought it was kind of clear. It was meant to clear. That cask, for some reason, just the sediment that was left over from the port just didn't clear. Right. But it was such a good dram, and I'll always remember it. Firstly, because of the flavour, but it's an easy reference as well because of that kind of haziness that is stuck.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
I don't have an endless supply of glasses just here. It's just this is where our bar is. Just keep handing out more. So we have a Craig Ellicky.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is this bucks a nice trend, I guess, for Carmore. So we discussed Carmore Strictly Limited being kind of sub 15 years old, 47.5%. This is 16 years old in cash strength. So a really nice kind of, as I say, point of difference. And this is Craig Ellicky, a spirit that we'll all be fairly familiar with, I guess, from their core range and from their Dewar's influence. And 52.1%, 202 bottles. This is a lot more limited. This is a single cask, and this has been in port for a considerable amount of time.
There's a long finish.
Yeah.
Second maturation, pushing.
Well, you tell me. Where's that cut off?
Where's the cut? Yeah.
So yeah, I had a real. Well, I say a discussion. Someone was telling me how long a second maturation is. Versus a finish.
There's no tire, no.
No, there's no official,
I remember speaking to Graham Cool, who was at Glenmurray at the time before he went to Ireland. He's now back in Scotland. About their finish, because they do, and that's another banging port cask. If you're looking for something that's cheap and cheerful, it just does a trick.
Okay.
The Glenmurray port cask.
Yeah.
Classic range. And I think they're all 6 years old with a 2-year finish. And I asked him that question: is that a second maturation? Not really, because it's shorter than the initial. He regards anything that's shorter than the initial maturation period would be a finish.
Great.
It's kind of his idea, but that's one man's statement.
No. I think there's a lot of takes on it where it's like, a finish is 12 months or less, or a finish is 3 years or less, because that would be its own legal whiskey.
Cool.
So and I think the less time than it's spent in the previous cask is also a great take. So I mean, it's wide open. Like I don't think it's a case of it needs to be a hard and fast rule. But
is it not a bit weird that there's not a rule around that? Because there seems to be a rule about every other bloody thing. to do with making of Scotch whiskey and maturation. But yet we just haven't made a rule around that. Like, yeah, we won't bother making a rule for that one. It's great, but it's weird.
I think that once it gets to, you know, you've jumped through all other hoops, and it's got to a stage of it being whiskey, like the gloves kind of come off a little bit, where you're like, okay, well, we're going to finish this. And also spirit changes, so it might need longer in the cask, it might need less time in the cask. Like if you have a PX that's super fresh, you might only need it in it for 3 months and it's ready to go. Whereas this has been in port for 5 years out of 16. So it's just a case of, I guess, wood management, I guess, or maturation management, or, you know. So I think it's nice that it doesn't have it can't exceed this, it can't exceed that. I've tried whiskies that have been in the second cask longer than they've been in the first cask. Still counts as a finish, which is a bit ridiculous versus, you know, this type of thing. But I think it's a nice open-ended, you know, you can have it.
I suppose it also depends on the reason that you're putting it in another cask. It might be that cask is not giving it anything,
sure,
or it's leaking, so you need to get out. So then is it a finish, or is it's actually we're just continuing its maturation by getting out of there? Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. So this was 16 years old.
Yeah. So it's basically a third of its life has been in the port cask.
Absolutely, and the port still doesn't bully it.
No.
And
Craigellachie, he's such a hard spirit influence. It's robust. It's meaty. It's
absolutely.
It's kind of classic Speyside from a bygone age, where Speysides were kind of known to be a bit more robust, isn't it? And it's very hard to temper it. And I think what you've done well is not trying to temper it. You just try to complement it. It's still in your face. And
and I think that even comes from the color. You see some port stuff that's like, you
rosy
know,
wine.
Yeah, pink. Yeah, absolutely. Whereas Craigellachie is a spirit that you just got to, you know, pay, as you say, pay it compliments and say, you know, this is what you're good at, and here's a little bit more. So yeah, really interesting. And I think the port gives you that. Same with sherry, where you're like, okay, here's the variety within this category, and let's make the spirit.
Do you know what kind of port that is?
I don't actually. The port we normally put the like whether it's ruby or tawny or whatever, but this is just simply port. I would say not mega active, not mega influencing, but again, as we say, Craigellachie is a spirit that it's tough to influence a lot on.
Yeah, there's a bit of like a strawberry milkshake or strawberry ice cream or something like that.
Yeah.
There's a really nice creaminess to it. Good evening, Sandro. Ciao.
I was just going to pick up that message while you're busy waxing lyrical about that amazing whiskey. I was just going to say that Sandra is on a Glenrothes, 13-year-old from Carnmore. So he's saying it's great sherry pot.
Yeah.
So,
No,
was that a celebration of the cask, the Glenrothes?
No. That would have been a strictly limited. Yeah.
You have had a Glenrothes, maybe not 13 years old. I think fairly recently.
We did a 9-year-old Glenrothes, I think, which was also sherry. 8 or 9 years old sherry, which was a banger. But that's honestly what I love about Carnmore, is that people all mention their favourite Carnmore, and it's like, oh yeah, that's done. Like that's done and dusted. And it's already got that kind of legacy piece of you've got a Carnmore that you remember, or got a Carnmore at home, or I think that like you say, Kat, like the labels help that, where you're like, oh, I've got one it's a blue one, it's a, you know, whatever. And yeah, where people have a favorite Carnmore, people have a one that sticks in their head, or people are still drinking them, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's great to see folk at home. Quite a few of you are opening Carnmores or pouring Carnmores.
Yeah, we've got quite a variety of them opened up tonight. It's like a proper little Carnmore party. I love it. Everybody's brought together by the whiskey. It's cool. I'll have to go.
Everyone except you, Kat.
I know. Well, you're talking all about port. It's making me think of my Glen Murray that I got from Cornelly when I was over at the distillery there. It's sitting in a port cask, but it was the one I couldn't get into and realised I just didn't know how to take the lid off. But I'll need to go and.
That was the funniest thing.
Well, I need to go to the kitchen
We
and
actually
get
had to put Cat on mute and go to commercial while she opened up her.
Apparently, it just slides off, but like nobody told me that at the distillery. But, but yeah, it's sitting behind me, looking very, very tempting. With you guys tasting that, that sounds amazing. The whiskey you got just now, and Craig is one that I want to play around with a bit more because it just sounds like such an interesting whiskey. Whenever people talk about it, it just sounds proper old school, kind of retro, oily, dirty, yummy kind of old school whiskey, but. It's not what I've played around with. I need to start drinking more whiskey. I just need to find more time.
I think you do, yeah. Go like sell the kids or something and give yourself some more time.
I mean, I could, but there's so many rules. Yeah. I know. I will. Yeah, I think I probably just need to start going to more whiskey tastings instead of working at them. Mike, sort that out.
That's very true. When are you next doing a tasting?
I've got your Lowlands one at the end of the month for you.
Well, there you go. It's Thomas's area, the Lowlands, Fife and South.
That's true.
Yeah.
You come up and be my wingman.
Growing all the time as well. We did a tour of Portleith.
Awesome.
6 weeks ago. Worth a visit if anyone's in Edinburgh.
Well,
really, really good.
I'm going to Edinburgh the day after I'm doing Mike's tasting, and I really want to book in for a tour, but I'm really worried I've left it too late because obviously we're in tour season. They might be fully booked, but I need to go on and check.
Yeah, give them a shout because it's really, really cool space, very accessible, and yeah, excited I was at Whisky Talks in Edinburgh with one of their founders, Mitch. And they just sound like they're doing great stuff. So and it's a great tour, and they've got a beautiful bar too, and the bar staff in particular, the guys there just are like everyone here, into whiskey, like pouring drams and like chatting drams as well. So it's fun place to go.
That's cool. Yeah, I definitely need to see if I can get along to that. It'd be really, really cool. My pals aren't really into whiskey.
Can't do a tour, go to the bar. It's worth going.
Yeah, I'll need to do that. Because I'm down for a concert. My friend's like, "You're into whiskey. Do you want to go to the distillery?" I was like, "Yes, I do. Yes, let's do that." So it'd be awesome to go and see that one. My pal of mine was there last week. She's a blue badge guide and she'd taken people in. She was saying the tasting's really interesting because they don't have a lot of spirit, so they did 2 new makes and a sample of sherry, so people knew what sherry was, and then like their table whiskey. I think she tried at the end of that. She was saying, but she said it was just really well put together. Like this, everybody was very knowledgeable. It was just a really good experience.
A vertical tour, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's on one building. Like imagine this place, 3 floors up, and then you can look all the way down to the stills, the wash, everything. So it's cool, and the bar's on the 5th or 6th floor, and yeah, really, really cool place.
I'll have to go.
Yeah,
they don't have a lot of spirit to taste, but it's a cool place to see.
It's an experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good evening, Alistair, who's just jumped on Facebook. Thank you for joining us. We have Karsten, hashtag Mr. Amontillado. Hey, Thomas, hope your way back from Lindbergh did go well. Thanks again for the great introduction to Old Perth and the different sherries. So somebody else you met over in
absolutely.
Lindbergh. Thank you for joining us.
No, Lindbergh was great. Absolutely loved it. I'm going to campaign for me to go back next year if I can, because so much fun. So much fun.
Let's start a petition now. You've at least got 20 odd folk that'll sign it for you. So let's get that started now.
That's plenty. I
would like to think that if you're still working for the guys, they'll put you out.
Yeah, and I'm fairly confident I still will be because it's been great so far. the German markets in particular, I love to. Nuremberg was great. Limburg was so much fun, and
I remember being at the Holyrood Distillery, and we spoke right at the start about the German crowd and how they are about the details and facts and figures and numbers and temperatures and timings and everything, which is phenomenal, and their level of detail. So I was down as part of the Whisky Ambassador Advanced course.
okay,
So we teach a Whisky Ambassador course here, and this is kind of the next level course that they do. And we did a visit, and I can't remember the guy's name who did the tour, but he was one of the distillers. And Holyrood are very much in their experimental. They're finding their new make, and there was a couple of German guys on the tour, and I was like, "So, what is your cut points?"
Yeah,
and we don't know. It just depends who's on at the time. Could be, if it's me, I'll cut point here, but if it's the next guy, he'll do this, and we just kind of wing it, and we just kind of see. And he had a notebook out, and he's just like,
and write whoever's on shift.
yeah. He just couldn't physically write that down. You could see the cogs. It's like, I don't know. I don't know what to do with this information.
Yeah, but I think that's such the charm of whiskey. Even still, like even in this age where we're all talking virtually from all over the world, it's like, whenever
I just love that kind of crafty niche.
Yeah,
we'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Absolutely.
But in terms of, hopefully you're allowed to tell us, Aberargie spirit.
Yeah.
Are you sticking true to kind of classic lowland style, grassy, kind of sweet, or are you?
Well, I would say that the classic lowland style is broad as it is. If you try Lindors versus Portleaf versus Holyrood, they're all so different, and I think it's probably one of the most diverse categories around. We'll see. I would say we'll see.
Did I read that you are just like you're using heritage like malt? You're doing Golden Promise and stuff to make your whiskey. I think I read that.
Yeah, so we're on a farm, so there's lots of Golden Promise barley around. There's barley on the farm, and we're distilling with it.
I love a farm distillery.
Yeah,
can't beat it.
I'm not. I couldn't say too much more beyond that, I would say. There's barley in the field, and we're making some whiskey from it. But that's not a.
It's beautiful to go down. I remember going down and picking up an order once, and getting into the gates, and as you drive up the driveway to the distilleries on your right, and on your left is just barley.
Yeah,
it's amazing to see just how close. It's a roads width away from the distillery.
Yeah,
it's barley,
and the view into the still house is just as impressive as the view out of the still house. It's just amazing. And I'm at the distillery.
Perthshire you're in.
Sorry?
Where is it? Perthshire you're in?
Yeah, just next to Bridge of Arran.
You're just along from Lindors, aren't you?
Just up the road. Yeah. So they're our closest neighbours, and they're great as well. Like it's a nice community whiskey where you're like, we chat to them a lot. So it's not a. Yeah, we're all in the same game of making whiskey, so it's nice to have them down the road.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful part of the world. It's one of my favorite places I've lived, Perthshire. It's just mountains and forests everywhere, absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, and super accessible as well. Like I commute from Edinburgh to the distillery, and it takes me an hour, and it's nice to get out of the city into what feels like the Highlands or the Lowlands or whatever. It gets into the country, and then you're like, it's much slower and it's much more calm. But yeah, really, really nice spot. Beautiful spot.
That's cool.
Ryan used to go by Bridge of Arran up the Forgandenny Road. Forgandenny. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know that one.
Beautiful area. We all know that.
It is
Perth is- it's stunning. Yeah.
Yeah, especially when as I say, when the clocks change and you get some really, really nice sunsets over the distillery. Yeah, like really, really pink, and the sheep are there, and like it's just a gorgeous spot.
Yeah. Sheep aren't pink though.
No, well, no, not unless you mix them in the wash, but no, they're not generally pink.
Interesting question for Kat. Where in Scotland have you not lived?
And there's not that many places I haven't lived, actually, Jeremy. I'm pretty much, anytime somebody says such a place, I go, I used to live there. But I really have pretty much lived everywhere in Scotland. But yeah.
We've talked Mactala a lot, but we don't have a sample of it. But I'm going to go behind the bar because I've got what I think might have been the predecessor to the Mactala range.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to chat amongst yourselves for just a second.
Well, don't put it on mute by accident again. I can't deal with that sort of trauma.
I won't.
The camera's just going to follow you now that you've moved. Oh, no, it hasn't.
It's on the laptop camera now.
So while he's not there, go and grab... Oh, no, he's back. Never mind. It would have been a perfect chance to go and nab something good from the bar. This could be a live health and safety incident happening. I hope you've got your moving and handling.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm supervisor.
It's
You are
actually
supervising.
in.
Oh, don't stand on... Oh, my God. Anybody that's a health and safety officer, please look away now.
Oh, number 1 edition. I'll let you introduce this.
Just remember. We've got this one as well.
This is all looking very exciting. Everyone at home is going to be very jealous that they're not sitting there just now with you two tonight reading.
Elegant yet functional.
Sounds like me.
Yeah, that's what a tagline.
That was me climbing up the steps there.
Elegant and functional. That's an interesting description of a whiskey. How can a whiskey be functional?
And belching with reek. That's definitely
No.
Oh.
Belching with Rick. That's awesome.
We've come a long way, eh?
Yeah. Definitely. I think I prefer what you've got to, but we all need to start in square.
So the distinctive grannies on the Lums Heads of Old Perth. So this was the first peated Old Perth that came out under the Morrison Mackay. That was back when it was Morrison Mackay label. If I remember right, somebody at home might be able to correct me on this.
It'll be Jeremy.
It'll be Jeremy. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. Was 3 different peated or 3 peat styles of whiskey from different regions blended together.
Okay.
So because we don't have the Mactala, we need to finish off on a peated note to cover the range.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I would like to know when it's bottled.
It's in the last 10 years.
Yeah,
I would say it was pre-lockdown, so, and I think it might have been under peat. So I would say 2017. at the
yeah,
latest.
17, 18.
There's not a date on the 15. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think like as a blended malt, super interesting, but yeah, we have come a long way in terms of identity as well.
Yeah.
You know, now we have Mactala, we have Old Perth, we have Carmore, and they're very distinctive. This is, I'm sure it's going to be delicious because we bottled it.
Because Old Perth, what was a brand bought by.
Oh, it's a historic brand. Yeah, it goes back to 1908.
Yeah. It's a really old brand.
I mean, even like just Perth in general, like Old Perth is a
It's
historic
blended,
brand.
isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So like, if you go to Perth, you'll see it's either Dewars or it's Bell's. ice rink, and you'll see street signs everywhere that are like akin to
Distillery Road or-
oh yeah, and just like these old blending houses. So it's in a geographically in a place where it makes sense for a product coming south
Mhm.
and then heading further south, or whatever. So
It's kind of where the lowland kind of divide was, wasn't it? It was
Yeah.
like accessible to
absolutely.
England or
Yeah,
the
and
Empire.
from a tax point of view, you could blend
Yeah.
4 miles this way and it would be X tax, and then so yeah.
So we're breaking two of what I guess is current Old Perth rules. Is there's no sherry in here.
Doesn't look like it.
Not exclusively Speyside either.
But
Jeremy's drawn a blank. He can't help you with.
Can't help us with this one. So that means we can make it up, which is
Can. Go for it. Go for it. Who's going to tell
Yeah.
you? you're wrong?
it's definitely beaten.
Sorry, my
Number
mother's
one.
phone in 2 seconds.
your mother's phoning you. Put it on loudspeaker.
No.
Be like with the Michael McIntyre does. The,
Oh,
yeah, just out on the stream.
David
Good evening,
Fackerson's
Alan
been-
Smith, who's
Oh, no,
just jumped in.
Sorry, I was going to say David Fackerson's wishing he was in there in the bar with you guys tonight for the Blether.
It would have
That
been
would have
great
been-
fun.
He would. So, what's the verdict on this one? Have you guys tried it?
Yeah, it's
There's
good.
a lot of nosing going on there. It must be an interesting one.
It's quite subtle. It's peated, but it's not. And that's why I remember having it, and I think it's three. I think it's Highland peat, Speyside peat, and Isla peat. It's not medicinal. It's not iodine. It's not
Yeah.
that kind of West Coast. It's more subtle. It's more for me like Ardmore, Ben Roma, peated Ben Rea, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's also it's the least ABV that we've had.
Mhm.
43. So it's a wee bit kind of softer altogether, but
Yeah.
and definitely bourbony. Yeah, I would suspect it'd be from a Isla distillery that you would be familiar with, which is famous for its salty style.
So there you go. There's something. Yeah.
Taste-
Quite intricately linked to maybe Morrison's.
No. I don't think it'll be that one.
Another independent bottling favorite.
Yeah, that's what I would say. I mean, I have no idea. But just having just tasted it, that would be my guess. But tasty liquid. But I think as an identity, like I don't know if you've seen other old Perths that have been really heavily sherry, and then we have this as well. I think it's got a much more strong identity now of blended malt,
Yeah.
exclusively on Speyside, only matured in sherry. So it's a nice like this is what we did, and then this is what we are really strong on now. But I would say it's looking.
I remember when that came out, there was 3 with the same kind of label. There was that one, there was a sherry one, and there was a third one, which I think was the original.
Mhm.
And that the sherry one was the one that kind of
That
started
blew.
to take off.
Yeah.
And maybe directed the brand from there. And the this one maybe became, well, actually, we've got a lot of peated stock. Let's do McTalla. Because you used to have the big strand. Did you ever try the big
I
strand?
don't think so.
We've got at the top right hand corner.
Okay.
So big strand, the longest beach in Isla.
Sure.
And I'm pretty sure that was Coolila.
Yeah.
It's 9-year-old Coolila. We'll
Okay.
get into that.
Yeah.
Which would probably allude to what your
Yeah.
guess is on this one as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just sneezed and Dave's saying bless you. Thank you.
You must have muted yourself for that. Susie.
I got to the mute in time. It's that panic of like, oh my god, I'm going to sneeze, I'm going to cough. Can I get it on mute? And have you noticed that I haven't actually cut out tonight either? That's 2
You
weeks in a
haven't?
row. 2 weeks in a row, my internet. Oh no, did it cut out last week? No, I think I've 2 weeks in a row. My internet's not cut out.
My God.
That's what happens when you start paying bills, eh?
Yeah.
I'm only joking.
So your neighbour didn't like die or move out, did they? Their internet's no longer being used.
That's actually a good point. It's the apartment next door is like it's
I hope
empty.
that's not a good point.
Oh, it's great for the Blether. My neighbour died.
They're not dead. It's not a welfare issue. The apartment next door is empty because it's like it's a flat that people rent. I don't know why I'm explaining how flats work, but there's nobody in there just now. So maybe that's why my internet's working.
Maybe.
Yeah. There's no I don't know. I was going to say something that's really inappropriate, so I stopped myself because I remembered that we're still live and I'm not just chatting to you, Mike. So I'm just going to stop.
You should. Everyone's like me, Kat. Everyone's happy to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. Maybe not all the things that come out of my head. We're past the watershed, so it's fine.
We're bang on. We're bang on 9 o'clock.
We are.
So we're. So guys, on that note, I think it could be an appropriate time to start winding down. If you do have any last questions for Thomas, please feel free to pop them in the chat. In the meantime, Thomas, where can we see Carl or yourself festival-wise in the near future?
So we're on Isla for Isla Whisky Festival end of May, and then the summer was looking quiet. Now it's filling up, so I'm hoping to be just doing tastings as much as possible. We've got a couple of collaborations coming, as I mentioned, new Old Perth, new McTalla, also new Carmore in the summer, and then we'll kick into Whiskey Fringe, and then Whiskey Live in London, and then before you know it, it'll be September, October, and Christmas. So I hate to speed everything up like that, but that's the calendar. So next big thing is Isla, which I'm really looking forward to for McTalla.
So it'll be your first fish.
First time on Isla ever in my life. So
That's awesome.
I had a trip planned March 2020 was my last trip plan that was like fully had this, like all of my mates in the industry booked up tickets, tours, everything, and then we went into lockdown 4 days after it was meant to go. So, and this is the first time that I'm going back. So delighted to be going for the first time. The McTalla Isla release is a banger.
What cask that?
Rum. So 2009 vintage rum, and it's big. So can't wait for that.
Love a rum cask.
Yeah, and then
it's growing, isn't it? Rum cask.
The one that we've got was it was virgin oak used in rum once, and then we got it, and it's been in rum for 5 years. So
nice. Watch this space, guys.
Yeah, it's big. It's big.
Are you going to be in Whiskey Live in Paris?
Not in Paris. I'll be there in London. I'm not sure when the Paris show is, but our head of sales or head of international sales possibly might be there, Mark. So if I'm not there, he may well be there too. But again, we're a smallish team, so we're trying to do as much as we can.
Good night, Dave, who's saying good night. Thanks for a great night. Want to think about Mike having the Blether in the shop with all of us. I would love to do a live Blether with everyone in the room. I'm not sure how logistically that could happen. I would love to do it. I have got it in the back of my head to do a special one-off kind of in the room Blether when it goes live, but so much goes wrong with live. You look at how sporadic we are with just three of us in the room. Imagine like having a room full of people. That would be crazy.
You're a little
Yeah.
What's that, Kat?
your little robotic camera couldn't keep up with it. It'd be following people all around the place.
Where to go? Yeah. It's crazy. That's quite funny. You got stopped going over to Isla. Kat almost got stuck on Isla. In pretty much the same week.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
My wife used to work with Kat for Beams and Tory. They went
Okay.
over to.
Yeah. It was the day we got back. The whole country went into lockdown, didn't it? Because we were kind of out there, and people were like kind of talking about it. But it wasn't really serious. It's like, oh, you know, like the virus, ha ha ha. And then we got back onto the mainland, went over Talking, and then by the time we got back up to Aberdeenshire, that was it. Like we're like, shit, like this is actually serious, and everything kind of closed down like the day after. So we very nearly got stuck out in Isla. That would have been tragic. Imagine.
I was going to say, yeah, the worst place to get stuck, right? Yeah, we were the same. We had everything ready to go, and we still thought until, I mean, it was a weird time, but we still thought until like soon before, like we might.
It's not going to happen.
We might go. We might not go, and then the whole thing was done. So I'm looking forward to getting back for the first time.
We were meant to get married in April, and it was a 3-week. I think originally it was, we'll close down for 3 weeks, and by that time it'll all be
Yeah.
fine. It'll be. We were the middle week, and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
It happened, but just
I was going to say.
still got married. But guys, Jeremy, I think absolutely we'd get banned if everyone was in the room at the same time.
Thanks.
Kat, who's on next week before we say goodbye to everyone?
I left my diary in the car, so it's
luckily I did my research. We have Greg Uckert from Glenmore Spirits.
Oh, he's a top gent.
You're right. Well done.
So a rare find, phenomenal. Me and Greg go way back, and really looking forward to having him on. Another independent bottler, which we're kind of going through a phase of champion just now, and really looking forward to catching up with Greg and seeing what they're up to. And we'll have an announcement on a tasting with them guys as well, with some of their oldest stock. So watch this space. Guys, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thomas, pleasure having you in the room.
Thanks for having me. Really, really good.
Really enjoyed it. Kat, thank you for sticking around and not jumping off internet-wise. And
I did it. My internet worked for 2 hours. It's been good fun.
You've got your hamster well fed.
I do, yes. I might go and eat the hamster now, though, because I'm absolutely starving.
Excellent. Good night, guys. Slanjavat. We will see you again, hopefully next week. If not next week, in shop very soon. And enjoy your weekend.
Cheers, folks.
We'll say good night.
Night, everyone.